Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey. Rob here, joined as always, well, most always,
when I can get away from baby, Carter.
Carter back. And, it's getting towards the end of the year, and we thought it would be kind of fun to do an episode wine-related, but just kind of our journey in wine this year. Wine is kind of that never-ending journey. It's a rabbit hole. It's a fun rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But if you really like wine and you want to start exploring, you're never going to get through it, is my point.
Yeah.
And kind of what was our journey like this year? And I thought it'd be fun to, you and I come in and talk about kind of where we were when we started the year and kind of what the journey was through the year, how we ended up, and then maybe kind of look forward to 2023, what we're looking forward to. Maybe we had a taste of or dabbled in a little bit and we're going, I want to go there a little bit more next year.
Yeah. I love this. Yeah, I've had quite the journey this year, actually.
Have you?
I've been exposed to quite a lot, thanks to you, for the most part, when it comes to one particular country.
Our friends in
Italia?
Yeah, the boot.
Yeah, the boot.
Yeah.
My goodness, man. That is a region that, I knew a little bit about, but I never did really a deep dive. And now I've figured out that currently Brunello is my favorite wine.
So that means Sangiovese is a grape you enjoy.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And even the Chianti Classicos and Chianti Classico Reserva is like great value.
Vino Noble. Montepulciano.
It just, in Tuscany, there's so much.
Yeah.
I mean, you can spend a lot of money in Super Tuscans, or you can spend a lot of money on, Brunellos. But there is some great value there. And holy crap, man.
Well, because you mentioned it, Super Tuscan would also be in that category because it's in Tuscany.
It is in Tuscany.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and there are mediumly priced Super Tuscans as well, but so there's a lot there, and then I think we've tried. Well, I've been introduced to the something that's.
Well, let's start there. Let's let you kind of recap. Where were you coming into 2022, and how did the year progress? What were you into? As we started the year, what were you enjoying? And then where did you go to? I mean, obviously Tuscany being a big region that you went to, and then Italy in general.
I'd say overall, my old world wine experience was limited. Mm-hmm. A few things, I knew. I mean, I know where Burgundy is. I know
Bordeaux.
I know where Bordeaux is. I mean, I know that there are some champagnes that I liked, some sparkling wines that I liked, but never did really a deep dive into it. And I was more of a Napa guy. Coming into just in the beginning of 2022. That has definitely changed dramatically. Now I've explored Rhone a lot more. I used to think, I only like Northern Rhone Syrah heavy stuff. No.
Grenache is a pretty good grape.
Yeah. And there's some good value there. There's some good places where you can spend your money. Like if you want a more expensive bottle, a lot going on in Rhone Valley.
Yeah.
Beaujolais, another thing.
I think that's a great one that is on my list.
It's come up for me. I didn't know too much about it going into 2022, and now I'm looking for them.
Yeah.
I'd say another one is, my wife and I have consumed a lot of Sauvignon Blanc from different areas. Now we kind of push more towards Sancerre, and we've explored that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Obviously, what's in the glass, talking sparkling, we're talking champagne specifically. My wife and I always loved champagne and sparkling wine.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. Ever since we've gotten involved with Chris Ruling, learning a little bit more, independent learning on champagne, it might be my number one thing that I've personally like dove into and really enjoyed. Like I'm now this year.
Yeah.
I always drank a lot of sparkling, but I'm drinking way more sparkling now.
Like, and buying it and putting it in the fridge.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The bottles suck for the wine fridge, but that's neither here nor there.
I was, Chris made a comment about that on a post he made on Twitter, and I was thinking to myself, I don't know if they do or not, but if they don't, they probably should make a champagne fridge.
They really should.
There's a lot of champagne people out there that like to buy a number of bottles. I mean, even if it's one that holds 50.
Yeah.
Something that accommodates that bottle, because it probably would be a solution for a lot of bottles, because there are some Pinot Noir bottles that are in that shape, and, some Syrah bottles that are in that shape, or some other, wines that are in that big bottom kind of shape. And those suck in a wine fridge.
Oh man, they're the worst, man. Yeah. Those are terrible.
I lose 2 spots for one.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's never enough space.
Right.
Like even when you're like, man, I'm never gonna fill up this space.
Yeah.
You're gonna fill up that space.
That's exactly right.
Another thing in Rhone, I'd say that I've really enjoyed is like the Tavel, like the rosé wine that comes out of that area. I really like that.
Tavel and then Provence. Have you gotten into Provence?
The Provence is good. I think I like Tavel better.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a kind of a different experience there.
That's a category I hadn't gotten into too much, was the rosés.
Okay, so you should try more
I need
of these.
to. I need to do more of that.
And then we've talked about, I think I got introduced this year to the Franciacorta, the Italian sparkling.
Yep.
That's done in the traditional method. That is quite good stuff.
I think so. By the right producer.
And I'd also say, like, I've always liked Schramsberg, but now that I know more about champagne and things, I can appreciate that they do it in the champagne method.
Here's my question for you on that. If Schramsberg keeps kind of climbing in price, is there at some point where you go, okay, at $40 a bottle now, I can find a $40 champagne I'd rather have?
Yeah, I mean,
or is Schramsberg good enough in your mind that it competes with those?
The thing is, I've kind of been lucky when it comes to Schramsberg and like different things, like just going and hunting a little bit. So Specs, our kind of local big box store that we have here, based out of Houston,
and Total Wine,
you can find some vintage Schramsberg like on the shelf for like, I don't know, $38.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I found, I found a Blanc de Noir Schramsberg the other day, like for $38, and it was from 2012.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, like, if you find that, that's all day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty good value, I would think. Absolutely.
But anyway, I think there's a lot of things.
So prior to 2022, you were really a Napa guy.
Yeah, mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you liked a lot of Sonoma stuff.
Yeah.
Which is Sonoma, a great region.
Yeah. Napa, Sonoma, those kind of things. But, man, I have to say I'm kind of an old world guy now.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same category. And you and I were talking before we started this episode, and it's not that, California doesn't, and I say California because that's kind of what the states are known for, though. And you think high quality, good wine, it typically comes from California. Not that there's not other areas doing it, but they just do it in such great volume that they get all the credit. It's not that they don't do great wines, because they do. It's just the, bang for my buck. Where can I spend my money and get the most, quality wine and the most volume of quality wine at that price I'm spending? If I got $100, I can get 2 bottles from Napa, or I can probably get, 4 bottles from an old world spot. And so that's kind of what drove me out of Napa, if you will. I mean, I love Napa. We're still members, and we still get shipments in from some places that we enjoy, but I don't just shop for it like I used to.
Well, I mean, there are some value plays in California. Like we've posted stuff about Schoolhouse a lot. Schoolhouse, they have things online.
I think Sonoma. Well, they have some stuff in Napa too. That's right.
Yeah, they're Calistoga, I think.
Yeah.
So they do the thing where they do free shipping on a full case and all that kind of stuff, and where you're spending around $30 a bottle or something. Okay, great. I mean, I think and library wines.
They have a good collection of those.
So yeah, I think that's totally worth it. Great. I mean, good wine. There's some. It's more uncommon though.
Sure.
Like you've got to really look for it.
That's the harder thing in Napa, where in Old World, a lot of Old World places and some other New World places. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But in primarily Old World places, you can find a lot of value. I mean, there's just so many right in front of you where, to your point, Napa, you kind of have to dig in. They're there, but you have to put in quite a bit of effort to find them.
Yeah. Like no doubt. And like with Napa, I mean, you have to, it's one of those things, I know you know this, but a lot of people, maybe somebody who's new, not listen to the show or whatever, I mean, they have to pay a ton of money for real estate over there. Their taxes are terrible. They've got to market that wine so hard where they just are at a complete disadvantage compared to Old World wines that have been, maybe in the family since,
hundreds of years
ago. So, they are at a somewhat natural disadvantage.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I will say for me, starting my 2022 wine journey, prior to 2022, coming from the world of Napa, that's where I started in wine, and I still love a lot of Napa wines. But I had already ventured off into Bordeaux.
Yep.
And I had ventured off into Tuscany big time.
Okay.
Which I love Italian wines. Probably my favorite region is Tuscany.
Yep.
But I'd also ventured off a little bit into Mendoza because I'm a big Malbec fan.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some New World areas that are also great value, Argentina being one of them, Chile being one of them. I still think you can get pretty good value and some cool stuff from Australia, although I think they're starting to quickly creep up in price.
Figure out where they are in the world.
Yeah. My wife and I are fans of Sauvignon Blanc, and there's some other regions that we found that we like. There's some that we found that we're not giving up on, but out of the chute, we're not just thrilled with. New Zealand, To me there, I get so much more grapefruit on their wines than I do on, the other Sauvignon Blancs.
Definitely get more grapefruit in New Zealand. I don't know why that is.
I don't either, but I'm trying to kind of get over that because I want to enjoy the styles of a particular varietal from all over.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I lived coming into 2022. And in 2022, you mentioned Champagne. Having Chris on the show early in 2022, kind of opened my eyes up to that world. I'd never really gotten into it because it was intimidating. I felt like, you had to know something about it. Or I also had the opinion that it was just a celebratory drink. It's just something you drink in special occasions. You mentioned
that to me a few times. Yeah. Like when, like I said, I don't know what I know today. But like last year, I used to drink a lot of champagne. And I know, Rob, you were okay, I get champagne, but that's more of a celebration type drink or whatever,
Which Chris Rowland will tell you, it's horrible with wedding cake. And, you see everybody pour champagne and have a slice of wedding cake at the wedding.
I mean, I don't know why that's a thing, but
I would have never thought that, but now I know and go, if I go to a wedding, I'm probably going to bring, a Sauternes or something to have.
I'm not going to bring champagne, that's for sure.
So champagne I've gotten into. And what I did for my journey in 2022, Carter, was I took varietals that I really enjoy and tried to find other regions that are making wine from those varietals and go explore, see what they're doing. And so the Rhone Valley, because I love Syrah and I love a GSM blend. Mm-hmm. Northern and Southern Rhone has been an area in 2022 I've dove way deeper into, and I've really enjoyed that journey. I mean, Chateauneuf-du-Pape I absolutely love, And I think, that region, it used to be thought that you had to sit on those for a number of years before you could drink them. And I see more and more people saying the style that they're producing wines with now, you can approach the first 5 years or so, you can drink those. And then if you want to wait, 8 or 9 years, then they get to a point where they're really, whatever reason, it's thought that 5 to 7, 5 to 8 year range, leave them alone.
Yeah.
Something's going on where leave them alone. But Syrahs I love, Côte Rôtie. I haven't had the Hermitage yet. Those are pretty spendy and pretty, I haven't went there yet. But I do love the Côtes du Rhône. I think that's a great value in wine.
Yeah.
And you get some great offerings. I'm also a huge fan of Cab Franc.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that's taking me to the Loire Valley, which I have just fallen in love with a lot of their wines, with the Cab Franc.
Well, we need to do something where Jana's on this episode because she, obviously she's a big fan of the Cab Franc.
Yes. And I've purchased some and just recently purchased some more of the Cab Franc from the Loire Valley, the Chinon.
So, a little background and just, it was always thought as kind of more of a blending grape, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's in that, Bordeaux blend.
Yeah.
So Cabernet, Merlot, and then you had the Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, and the Malbec.
But somewhere along the way, somebody found out that this stands on its own pretty well.
The Loire Valley.
Yeah.
And then also, you find producers in, whether it be Argentina or Chile, and then in Napa. There's a lot of Napa producers that are making some great Cab Francs.
Yep, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Some of it being mountain fruit, grown on the mountains.
Yeah. Pretty sick.
Pretty good.
Now,
I do want to mention one other wine out of the Loire Valley that I've fallen in love with, which also took me to South Africa. Chenin Blanc.
I know nothing about this.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. So the wines you saw on the counter that we purchased, 4 of those are Chenin Blancs from Loire Valley. So we'll have to pop one of those here in a dinner night here in the next few weeks and let you try. I also have some South African ones that we got that are just beautiful.
So this is did you cover most of the things that you wanted to talk about for this year?
3 more regions. You touched on one, which was Beaujolais. Which I dove deeper. I knew a little bit about Beaujolais, but I've gotten way deeper into it. And, the value there for Cru Beaujolais.
Oh, yeah.
When you start talking about Fleury and Morgan and the crus there's 10 crus. You can get those for, $35, $40 that blow you away. I mean, just delicious wines. And so I think that's a great region. Rioja is someplace I've dove into this year. When you talk about an aged wine at a great value, and I'm a fan of Tempranillo. It's a really fun grape. And a lot of Tempranillo blended with Grenache.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of Grenache already. But, Grenache has a lot of... it gets a lot of alcohol in it, so it can be a lot of sugar, I should say, which translates to alcohol. But it's a good blend. It's a good blending grape with the Tempranillo. They do a really good job.
Yep.
So I've really gotten into Rioja, and then the other category that I've gotten more into, the other region, I should say, part of Italy, Sicily.
Oh, really?
The Etna Rosas and stuff. I've just love. A lot of the vines are on volcanic ash on the sides of and I've had a few of those that I've dove into and really kind of explored that I'm going to continue that journey in Sicily, but it's been a fun experience and one worth, if you've not gotten into Sicilian wines, it's definitely a region you should try because it's fantastic.
Yeah, I've not. And another place I'd like to try is Sardinia. I've heard that they have some pretty interesting things there.
Yeah. Another island,
Italy. So, and I'll kind of piggyback on your Tempranillo thing.
Yeah.
So this is very recent, and I don't think we've really even drank much Tempranillo, like much Rioja or anything like that.
No, not together.
No. I've recently just kind of gone, diving into it a little bit. like I don't know really where to start, but like I've gone to some of the bigger box stores, found some like really, I mean, vintage type wines that are how is this $30? Like that kind of stuff. And so I picked up several Riojas in the past, I don't know, a couple months. Enjoyed the heck out of those. Like, I mean, really enjoyed it. And I'd like to do more of a deep dive into it, just to learn more of the nuance. I know that like they've gotten more stringent on the controls and all that kind of stuff.
And they hold their wines back before release a little bit.
Yes,
a lot of producers
do.
will hold them back. That's why they have that age on them.
Yeah,
you can find, and you still see 2008s and 9s sitting on the shelf.
Right. And then there's like a little bit more classification when it comes to those wines. But I honestly, like, man, it kind of blew my mind. Like,
yeah. To me, I think when you talk old world wines, people right away, and to some degree, I don't disagree with them. You go to France and Italy.
Yeah.
And you think, those two regions are the kings,
yes,
co-kings of, winemaking.
Yep.
And, it probably should go to Italy and France should be the queen.
Yeah.
I only say that because, I was reading some history on wine in France, and it turns out the Romans planted a lot of the different vines that are there and around, and I went, well, then Italy gets credit for that. That's a trump card, right?
Yeah,
there.
right, right.
But anyway, both regions are fantastic, and world renowned and well thought of, and some of the most expensive bottles you can get come from both those countries. So,
sure.
And most sought after bottles come from both those countries. So, I totally get that. But Spain, I think sometimes is just kind of gets overlooked for some reason.
And I think part of it is just because the Spanish people, I think that they go into bars, they want just the vino tinto, like the table wine and like all that kind of stuff.
Well, and I think part of it, you tell me if I think I'm wrong, but part of it I think is that if you go to Italy and you're up in Barolo or you're in a Super Tuscan or even some Brunellos, they have these iconic wines that are sought after by so many, wine enthusiasts and collectors for these high-end wines. They can get very, very expensive.
Right.
Same in Bordeaux or Burgundy.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Name me a wine out of Spain that has that kind of, that you go, hey, here's a wine in Spain. Unico would be the only one that I know of that is kind of like that. And I don't think it has, and maybe I don't know, but, I've been in wine enough that I would think if there's 4 or 5, if there's one region producing all kinds of, like you talk about first growths out of Bordeaux, you would think that we would know about it by now. We would have at least heard about them, probably not had one, but at least heard about it.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that in Spain. So I think because they're just kind of they're the value play in wine for the old world.
I do think that you're right there. And honestly, like, I'd say this too. I've heard that Spanish people don't necessarily, like the bigger, better, older wines. They're selling those more internationally than they are like in country.
Same in Piemonte with Barolos and they drink Barbera as their daily drinker.
Which is
funny, isn't it?
Which is not bad.
Yeah, it's my favorite pizza wine.
Well, I mean, Beaujolais wasn't thought about much up until the past few years.
And I don't like that people are thinking more about it because,
that really sucks for me.
Yeah. But it's just going to drive up costs.
But I think that kind of dovetails a little bit into New World for me and an area that I'd like to dig into a little bit more. And that is Malbec. I don't know enough about it. I've tried Malbec, and I go, man, I really like this. I really don't know enough about it to know what's good, what's bad, what I need to look for, all that kind of stuff. So going into 2023, I'd say that's a varietal that I want to put a little bit more focus into.
Not just in one region. You want to explore that varietal being made in multiple regions to see kind of what they're doing with that varietal. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good one. It's a favorite of ours, and I would say, even in France, there's a place in France that's still making Malbec. Also, obviously Argentina, Chile, Napa makes some good Malbecs.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes some good Malbecs. I think that's a fun one to explore. I'm trying to think. I don't know that Australia. I don't know why I'm thinking there was kind of a. I don't know if Penfolds makes some Malbec or
do they?
I don't know. I don't want to say yes or no because I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. I think I've seen Malbec out of Australia before.
You have?
I think I
kind of thought I had too, but I'm not 100% sure if I remember that. Not enough that I go, yeah, you see it on a somewhat regular basis.
That and I would like to. We mentioned this previously, but I'd like to get into fortified wines and learn a little bit more about those.
Yeah,
I just don't know enough.
Yep. And because we like alcohol and we like Armagnac and cognac and we like wine, and fortified wine is kind of a blend of those two things. Just makes sense that because it's on my list of 2023 to dive into more. And when we start thinking about an after dinner drink and a cigar, I mean, I just got a feeling those two are going to get along just fine.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, like, every time I get a port, I'm like, man, why don't I drink more of this stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, here's the cool thing, too. Wines, when you open them, you typically have to finish them in a day or two, whatever.
Yeah.
Red wine, white wine, maybe a few days more. A tawny port or something, you can pour it and go, I'll sip on this over the next month.
Yeah, right. 2
months,
right?
And it's good to go. So,
yeah, no doubt.
That's a value add to that kind of wine when you're spending, say $50 to $100 on a bottle, but it's going to last you. You don't have to finish it. You can kind of savor that over the next couple months.
Yeah, no doubt. So what are some areas that you want to get into?
So I'm going to tell you that I used to, if you know me, you may know that I used to say I don't like Pinot Noir. And
I fall into this category.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was judging or making that opinion on Pinot Noir that I'd had primarily from California. I have found some Oregon Pinot that I like. Oregon gets very expensive. We're kind of in that same category of, but Burgundy's expensive too.
Yeah.
But I do think that, and I've been told that you can still find value in Burgundy in that $30 to $50 range, $30 to $60 range for really good Pinot Noir. So Burgundy, as you notice, wasn't on my list of where I've been, but it is definitely where I want to go to explore more for Pinot. I also want to go to Australia because
I don't know enough about Australia.
The Yarra Valley is starting to make some Pinots that are supposed to be pretty good, and I want to go there and explore Australia in general because they're also making some in the Eden Valley, or the Eden Valley, however you say it. They're making really good Rieslings, and I want to try some of those because that's a grape varietal that I've gotten into this year is Riesling. And I didn't have that on my list, but it is something that I've gotten into is Rieslings, not just from Germany, but also here in the States at Finger Lakes. Really, Chris Rulin turned me on to that, and I found some really good Rieslings. And then Shiraz, in Australia, the Syrah. I'm a big Syrah fan. I want to do some comparisons to what they're doing, their style in Australia, to what is in Northern Rhone or even coming out of Napa, and do some fun stuff with Shiraz and Syrah. But also getting back to Pinot, Santa Barbara.
Ah, yes.
Santa Barbara, I've been being told, is a great area for Pinot Noir, and it's hard to find.
Yep.
So it's not distributed like I would hope it would be, but so I've talked to Sandra, and that's going to be a trip for us in the next year.
Sweet.
Is to go to Santa Barbara and explore those wines over there for Pinot Noir.
Nice. So I've heard a lot about. I know a little bit about German wines. I don't know a lot. I know
you know a lot.
Well,
about wine.
Yeah, well, about wine, but but like I've also heard that. So Austria is an area. I know we were talking a little bit about German wines and things like that, and I would like to learn a little bit more about like German wines. I know there's some go-tos that I like to go to.
Yeah, no.
Go to that I like to go to. But I have tried some things, and people I've had a few people tell me you need to try some Austrian wines, and there is a sparkling I like out of Austria quite a lot called I think it's called Brundelmeier. Anyway,
really?
So they have a pretty unique little wine region. I'd like to learn a little bit more there.
Okay.
I'd like to learn a little bit more in the Germany area. Like, what else do they have beside, Gewürztraminer and Riesling and things like that? That's an area that I think that would be of interest to me, kind of going into 2023. Another thing I was thinking, I don't know, like, they've got to grow wine in Asia somewhere, right?
I know they're huge importers, so if they're importing as much as they do, whatever they're growing, I'm not sure I'm ready to try it.
Okay. So there's no.
But you make your own decision.
There's no traditional regions there.
I think rice wine is where you're going to go.
We're going to talk. I do like some sake and stuff. That's good shit.
Yeah,
for
that
sure.
They do very well.
Okay. Now I've also heard, and I want to learn a little bit more about Mexico because I have heard that's on the come up.
Okay, I think that's a great topic.
Yeah,
I did not have that on my 2023, kind of areas to explore. But you say it, and I go, yeah, shame on me for not having it on there because I think that should be someplace we explore.
Yeah, and being in Houston, we've got to have access to somebody who knows some stuff about Mexican wine.
I know we do.
Yeah, well, we have some personal friends that know stuff, and then there's probably somebody who's like almost like
got to be a professional is what you're talking about.
Yeah, a professiontal that knows some things about it. So yeah, I think that those are kind of the regions that I'd like to explore. But man, I mean, who knows? In this whole journey, say I might go down a different rabbit hole.
And I agree with you on the German. I've gotten into some Riesling, and I want to continue that with Riesling because I think it's just so good. And then, I'm not going to be able to say the regions within Germany. The Mosel's the easiest one to say. Yeah. The Reinhardt, or I don't know how whatever. But, the multiple regions and seeing what the style differences are and what they have. So I'm looking forward to that. But there's some other grapes that I want to try, which are Gewürztraminer.
Yeah.
Get more into that. I've heard some people who say they love it. Some people who say they're not a big fan. So I kind of want to dive a little deeper and make my own opinion. But I also want to get into, and I've not drank a lot of this. Me and Sandra had one at a dinner a couple weeks ago, a Gruner Veltliner.
I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever tried one.
I've seen it. I've not bought a lot, but we had one at a dinner. Me and Sandra went out 2 weeks ago, and we had it with our dinner, and it was absolutely fantastic. And so I made a note, obviously I'm mentioning it here, that I need to get more into this and probably have more bottles in the fridge because it was delicious.
So I've heard this is a country that I don't know much about, but I've heard they have a very old wine tradition, and that's Croatia. So I'd be interested to kind of see what they offer.
Maybe Greece too.
Greece, yeah. So I've heard that actually Zinfandel came from Croatia.
Croatia? See, I heard Greece.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know.
I know in Italy, in Puglia, however you say that region, they're known for the Primitivo, which is Zinfandel, same as what we have here, Zinfandel, but they just call it Primitivo.
Okay.
That's the only big region I know that produces it, but I heard it did start in Greece, which that part of Italy and Greece is not that far apart.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all Mediterranean type stuff,
But Zinfandel, you bring that up. It's one of my favorites.
Absolutely. I freaking love Zinfandel.
I do too, and I think it's a great pizza wine. I know some people may disagree with that, but I like Zinfandel
Those
and
people
pizza.
Are nuts because it's really good.
Well, we opened that 2009 the other night, Schoolhouse, and me and Sandra were out doing Santa's work, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so we came home.
Who was the bad Santa?
Neither one of us. We're usually on the same page. Yeah, just get it. Get it. But we were like, let's just pick up a cheese pizza on the way home. And I said, I got a wine we can open when we get home.
Boy.
So we got a New York style thin crust cheese pizza and had a bottle of wine. And it's not that fatty. People hear pizza and they go, golly. I woke up the next morning and I lost a pound. I mean, eat more pizza.
Yeah, that moral of the story.
Yeah, eat more pizza, drink more wine.
Oh
lose
my
weight.
gosh. Yeah, like so. Oh my gosh, I've been kind of like paying for it today, but we had some great champagne last night with some Detroit style pizza.
Yeah,
and a New York style pizza. Like the same place makes both of them pretty darn well. I actually think it's a kind of a hidden secret. Like that's one of the real go-to good places to get pizza.
I'm going to tell you that, in my opinion, making a New York style can be difficult.
Oh yeah,
getting the thin crust, the crispy crust, the ratio to sauce and cheese, so you just get the right kind of bite every time, can be tough.
Very difficult.
Or at least it is for me. And I like pizza. I'm a pizza guy. I like to make pizza. But Detroit, I ain't buying another Detroit. I'll make that at home. I mean, I've not to toot my own horn or pat myself on the back, but I've gotten to where I make a pretty good Detroit pizza. You might have that tomorrow for lunch.
Okay, really?
Maybe. Can you go?
Now you're getting me excited.
Can you go carb day tomorrow?
Got well for that.
I might do that.
No, the Detroit style. I mean, golly, man. I've got to go back to the Portnoy thing, like where he's like, it looks heavy, but it's built like a lineman that's got some speed.
Yeah, got some agility to him.
Like it looks heavy, but it's light.
Yeah,
it's like light on his feet.
Yeah, and I don't think thin crust pizza is horrible for you. I don't eat thin crust pizza and go, I'm stuffed. You get to a point where you're satisfied just like any other.
Oh, I've gotten to that point.
Yeah, well, I've gotten stuffed. I've indulged in a lot of areas I shouldn't, but that's neither here nor there, man.
Yeah.
But on my list, I want to continue the journey in Champagne.
Okay, me too.
I've enjoyed that so much this year. And, I never knew. I always knew about Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. I didn't know about the third grape that's so predominant there, the Pinot Meunier, or however you say it, that particular one. And I had one the other day that was 80% Pinot Meunier, however you say it, and it was fantastic. And so I want to continue to explore Champagne. I want to drink, house champagnes, but I also want to drink more grower champagnes, which is becoming kind of a thing. And so I've enjoyed the journey that I've done so far, but I'm looking forward to continuing that, because this year I've just been, made aware of how great Champagne is, but what a great wine with food.
Oh,
and I want to continue to have Champagne and food.
I mean, I think Champagne and food is just
Can
incredible.
I tell you what's on my list that we're going to do one night?
Okay, what's that?
A Champagne night, and the main course is going to be Southern fried chicken.
Well, yeah, that would go perfectly.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I've never done it, but everybody I have heard talk about, or what's a great fried food, and not that you should eat a lot of fried foods, we don't, but that'll be a special treat of fried chicken, buttermilk battered, sitting in buttermilk for at least a day.
Yeah.
And fry up some really good fried chicken on the bone. And we're going to have that with some bottles. It's just going to be only champagne for the dinner that night.
So
if you're in.
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay. And if you
you want me to just bring over Cane's, your favorite chicken joint.
You can bring the chicken. I like the chicken, but the crinkle fries I'll pass.
I mean, your son likes it.
I like it. It's just overrated. There's a difference between not liking and liking. I like it, fine. It's just not as good as everybody thinks it is. Now,
I did this at
Chick-fil-A is, but we'll stop right there. Go ahead.
So we did this at my house. Crab cake.
Oh.
And it's champagne.
Fantastic.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Man, I bet fried shrimp and champagne would be badass.
Does that mean a po' boy and the champagne might be good?
Oh my gosh, yes. We need to do unlikely combos at work.
I do like that. Chris had sent me a message today that he was opening up a badass wine with sliders. He's like, it's a $200 and some bottle of wine, and Amy's making sliders.
Hell yeah, dude.
I'm like,
Let's
I
go.
like how you roll. That's exactly what I said. Hell yeah, I love those kind of
I
combinations.
love that.
Badass wine with the simple food.
That's
That's a thing.
I mean, pizza and champagne is my thing.
There you go.
You know.
Yeah.
Hey, so how do you feel about that combo?
I still haven't had it enough.
Okay.
You know, because champagne's one of those things that when you make pizza night, people coming over, you want to make sure they like champagne. If they're not into champagne, there's no reason to open up champagne. So you open up red wine or they have beer.
So you just invite me.
I'm down for that.
You know,
absolutely
my wife and I
down for
are
that.
good with that.
Yep, let's do it. Let's plan a night. And it's the time of year we can sit out back, and it's other than this weekend, and it's not too bad.
Maybe like oysters, like fried oysters or something like that.
Absolutely. I think oysters on a half shell would be really good.
Yeah, oysters on a half shell. Maybe even like fried green tomatoes with that acid, you know, like cut with the fried food.
Absolutely.
Man, I'm getting hungry. Yeah.
I live in that state.
I live in a state of hunger.
Portugal, you mentioned as an area next year you want to get into.
I didn't actually yet. But
I thought you did.
I did not. Spain is the area that
I thought you said Portugal, fortified wines.
Oh, well, fortified wines, yeah.
Which is Portugal, ports.
Yeah.
Ruby Port, Tawny Port.
Yeah, I mean, but not the country specifically. Is
okay, well, that's where it comes from.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean.
I'm going to, not literally, but I'm going to go and explore Portugal next year with ports.
Do they have any other wines other than ports?
Yeah, they have some indigenous varietals that they have that they're actually making some wines now from, not just port from, that are thought to be pretty good. So that might be something that we kind of look at while we're exploring ports.
That'd be cool.
But Tawny and Ruby ports I want to get more into this year, so Portugal. And then the island of Madeira, I want to get into some Madeiras.
Yeah.
And sherry is over there as well. I don't know a lot about sherry, other than, I cook with it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Spain has their own sherries as well, right?
Is it Spain that has a sherry?
I think
not
so.
Portugal?
I think it's Spain.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm illustrating my lack of knowledge of these things.
But
But by 2023, we're going to talk about it like we know about it.
Dude, I really want to be experts on this stuff because I find this is like an underappreciated category.
It is, but the problem with sherry for me is, because we did an episode with Chris and Daniela where we did top 5 wine regions, and Daniela had sherry and port on hers, but sherry, I was going, it's kind of that chicken and egg. It's not here a lot other than cooking sherries.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody wants to send it here because nobody's demanding it, but nobody's demanding it because it's not here.
Yeah.
So how do we get our hands on some sherry? And I think it's probably, people or talking to folks who know how to search for it, maybe Wine Searcher or something like that, where it can help you locate some good sherries to try. I think you see a lot of ports. Ports aren't too tough to find, but sherries seem to be a little bit more difficult.
I feel like we could, with our connections, find sherries.
I think so.
Or at least get them to bring them in.
I think so. I think we know a couple people. If they're available to them as an option to bring in, I think you're right. You're right.
Man, holy crap. That fortified wine thing is a thing. I mean.
And it's something I feel like right now I'm missing out on.
Yep.
I feel like, people who are drinking it and enjoying it, I'm not doing that, and I probably should be. I think it's probably a beverage that is very underrated. All 3 of them, ports, sherries, and Madeira.
Yeah.
I think Madeira probably the most because that's the wine that lives forever. Because it's oxidized, it's been in the heat, it can handle anything, it can live for 300 years and it'll be fine.
You can open it and never
a year
worry
later
about it.
and it'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
It's dealt with the
elements.
elements.
Wine was like that, to be honest.
Yeah. So I think those are things I want to get into. I want to get more in depth into Barolo and Barbaresco. So I've dabbled, But I've always thought that, I didn't do a lot. I'm in my early 50s, and that's a wine that has traditionally been thought that you need to age it for, 15, 20 years. So why am I going to buy those now and age them 15, 20 years? At my age, I'm buying stuff I want to drink. But I'm starting to talk to more and more people that the styles of wines being produced and are being made in a style that you are more approachable, that you can drink them a little bit earlier, 5 to 7 years. So I've picked up some, 2014s, 15s, 16s. And so I want to start exploring Barbaresco and Barolos a little bit more.
Okay.
And then the Finger Lakes. It's a region I've had a few wines in the Riesling category, which have been fantastic. And I'm finding or hearing that Pinot Noirs are being made up there as well. And so I feel like I ought to give that a shot. So that's another region here in the States. Santa Barbara and Finger Lakes are two areas I want to get more into in 2023 in the States.
Not Texas wine?
I love going there for the scenery and a weekend to get away, but here's the problem with Texas wine. It's like California wine. You want to go buy like a Tannat, they want $75 for it.
Yes.
I'm not going to pay $75 for a Texas Tannat.
Man, me and my golf buddy yesterday, we're talking about this. He goes to wine country all the time, and he's like, I've canceled every wine club membership that I have in Texas wine country.
Yeah.
He's like,
it's a beautiful part of the country.
He's like, dude, they're charging $50 for a wine that came from even Napa would cost $20.
Yeah. Well, and I have friends who have bought wine from Texas and paid like $60 for it. And then you look up and the grapes are sourced from the northern coast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, that's a $15 wine or $12 wine in California.
And a lot of times it's 80% plus, even if it's considered a Texas wine, is sourced from California.
Sorry, we shouldn't be shitting on Texas wine. We live here.
It is what it is. And maybe
it's not that it's bad wine again. There's some producers over there make really good wine.
There are.
It's just can be expensive. And that's my issue. I'm trying to get bang for my buck.
Yeah, that's me too. When it comes to wine, I don't mind spending a little bit over what I would like to spend.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to spend double.
Yeah, you're not spending $400.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob.
200 is the limit. You're not spending double.
I'm not going 100 acre here.
That's right.
My gosh. To be honest, I've never tried any of their wines. I don't know anything about it. Yeah. I just know the price tag, and I'm like, there is no chance in hell that that's that good.
Yeah. And sometimes when you're there, you buy just because you're there.
Yeah.
And it tastes better because you're in the moment, and, you're there, and then you get home and go, yeah, probably shouldn't have bought those, But
you're gonna have a tough argument for me to say that, I don't know, some Super Tuscan from Sassicaia or something is not as good as 100 acre.
Well, 100 acre being what? What is that? $500 a bottle?
Yeah.
And Sassicaia is half that price?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd buy 2 Sassicaia.
Yeah, I'd just buy 2 Sassicaia.
Yeah, all day long.
I don't know. That's just me.
That's just me too.
What do you say?
What about, a region that I've had some wines from, I probably should consider exploring here more, because I do like Argentina, but just go over the Andes and you're in Chile.
Yeah.
And
Chilean wine, I don't know enough about.
But it's probably something we should explore. Great value. And I think they're doing some really good things over there.
Well, if you think about it geography-wise, it's a mountainous region, which means that's kind of the place you want to grow wine.
Yep. Elevation.
So there's got to be some real good stuff out of it.
I would agree. Totally agree. So that
great
might be
sea bass, though.
It's not actually called sea bass, and it's not a very good-looking fish. This is why you never see it whole in the grocery store.
No, you do not.
Tastes freaking delicious, but look it up and see what it really looks like and go, I'm eating that? Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. because it's delicious.
So as we're talking about this, is there any other region that you can think of that we should maybe consider diving into or drinking some wines from?
I don't know.
I'm sure there's 100 people.
I don't know a lot about ice wine, but I would be interested learning a bit about it.
That's a great point. Let's just talk that category, dessert wine.
Yeah.
I think that's a category that we should dive into next year, because I've dabbled this year, and I should have mentioned that. Great job mentioning that, because dessert wines I used to think I didn't like, but now a Tokai or a Sauternes, and like you, I've never had a ice wine, but I would like to try that. Great point, Carter. That's a good one.
I mean, there's a reason these things exist.
Yeah.
So let's explore this. Let's see if it's something we want to get behind.
Yeah, no, I've had enough Sauternes this year and Tokai.
Yeah, that
I'm behind the dessert wine.
Tokai
I'm on
board.
Really, I'm on board with dessert wine. But ice wine, I've still never had. I know nothing about. I mean, if I went and looked at a store and they had it, I wouldn't be able to tell you if it's worth it, if it's good, if it's not good. I wouldn't know. And so, we would have to lean on somebody to kind of guide us, help us to make a couple purchases and try that out.
Right.
Because if I'm going to drink it, I want to drink something that's supposed to be pretty good.
Not at least some degree of guidance, because I'd be starting from nothing.
Yeah, that's a really good one, dessert wines. I think that's a category that's under the radar that people don't think about a lot and don't, pair like they should. They don't have a lot of people have dessert after dinner and they still want to drink, but they're not drinking the right drinks with dessert, alcohol wise.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I'd like to incorporate that into my kind of thing. Like if I'm having a big dinner, and having a dessert, I'd like to say, well, rather than a tawny port, I'd rather go with an ice wine or something like that.
Now, if you're doing a tawny port, you might want a pecan pie. Then you might want a tawny port.
No, I just wanted another trick in the bag.
Absolutely.
Tricks, what else can I do with that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's a great point, because I think, ports and those are still sweet wines and they go with some desserts. But I think Sauternes, Tokai, and ice wine are three that we should get more into.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about. I'm trying to learn. I did do a Sauternes here for dinner a couple weeks ago with some friends. And I give Specs Guy a lot of credit on this one.
Nice.
So I was looking for a 375 just for 4 pours. We just had 4 of us doing dinner. And I was going to spend like $80 for a 375. And he was like, listen, dude, that one's not ready to be drank, but this one right down here is going to be fantastic. You know how much it was? $12. It was a 2017 Sauternes. And I went, are you sure? I go, I'm willing to spend a little bit. And he's like, no, you don't need to. This is going to be fantastic. This is the second or the third label of, what's the big Chateau Kim? And so I was like, okay, I'll take your word for it. And we had it, and it was absolutely delicious. And I'm going, you can get that good dessert wine for $12? So, I just opened my eyes to dessert wines a little bit more.
Well,
you don't have to spend a lot either.
What was the Tokai that you brought to the house a couple weekends ago?
Yeah.
That was really delicious.
Delicious. And I have a couple more of those and a different, same producer, different label that they're making.
Yeah.
So we need to try those and see what we think. So,
yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah. So dessert wines has been something I've dabbled in this year, but you're right. I need to get more into those because they definitely have the place in the wine world. As far as part of your meal when you're putting together a dinner and things like that, it should be included.
Well, when you think about for instance, you go to a steakhouse, right? Like fancy restaurant, something like that. They always bring a dessert drink menu out.
Yeah.
And these things are on there.
Yeah.
Why are these things on there? We need to figure it out. Yeah. We need to figure this out on our own and say, hey, is this worth it? Should we do this?
Yeah, totally agree.
So anyway,
trying to think if there's anything else we're missing. I think we've kind of covered what we want. Shoot us a message. contact us on
things
social
we're totally
media.
whiffing on,
Yeah.
let's go.
If there's a varietal or a region that you think we should be exploring or we should be looking into, let us know. Hey man, I love wine. So anything somebody can recommend that we should go try or look into, region or varietal, I want to do it. And I know there's tons of them that we're not thinking of.
We're probably spacing on a lot of stuff right now.
I wouldn't say a lot. I'm going to try to give us some credit.
Okay, maybe 20%.
A couple of things we're missing.
20%, we're probably missing.
Yeah, because I think there's some countries when you get into like Georgia is kind of up and coming.
Oh, yeah. Georgia, Republic of Georgia.
Yeah, Slovenia is up and coming. There's some wines from there. But, I'm not sure. It's not mainstream. And as much as I'd like to try them, it's not where I want to really dive in deep yet. There's still so many other prominent regions that are doing, I don't want to say they're not doing great things, but are doing things that I want to explore. I'll just say it that way.
No doubt.
So, fun conversation, man.
Absolutely, man.
That's our journey in wine from 2022 and kind of what we're looking to do in 2023. So 1 year from now, we'll have this conversation.
We'll have this recap again.
And then everybody will know what we've been doing in Australia and Santa Barbara and Champagne and Portugal and Madeira and Barolo Barbaresco, Australia, Finger Lakes, and Chile, and dessert wines.
Dessert wines?
Yeah.
A lot to get into in the
They're
going
to think we know something about wine by that point.
Maybe. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey. And until our next episode, enjoy your next pour of champagne.
Oh, yes. And maybe in the future, dessert wine.
In the near future.
Yes.